What up, what up, what up, what up, everybody? All right, you got Alpha and Alf. We're going to call this show Alpha and Alf until other people show up. So you got me, Alfredo Ortega from 3 Yards Per Carry. I am Alf 954, of course, from 5 on the Floor, Light Skin Opinions. And we are covering the postgame show for the Miami Heat win against the number 1 seed in Milwaukee Bucks. They beat them by 11. And there's so many things apart about this game. But before we get any further into the game and the analysis, I wanted to shout out Biscayne Bay Brewery. It got me through this game, all the tense moments when I was anxious, sweaty, blah blah blah. I hit up a Biscayne Bay Brewery beer. That's the pale ale. I actually had a couple of lagers earlier in the night. Got me through it. So listen, Alfredo, what a game, man. What a game. That final score does not do the game justice.
No,
right?
It was basketball at its best. Really.
Yeah.
It really was. It really was. But at some point, and I was thinking this too, I picked Heat in 7, and to be honest with you, I wanted to pick something like Heat in 6, but then I started thinking to myself, you know what? I'm pushing this Heat train a little bit too strong, and this is a team to be respected. They have the best basketball player on the planet, and MVP. Middleton.
They got the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, the best basketball player on the planet, hands down.
And they have some advantages down low that they can take advantage from time to time. They have good shooters, that can get hot from time to time. They can defend, and they can extend their defense to take away some of the things that we do best. But at some point, we keep watching this thing over and over and over again, and we're not looking at what's staring us dead in the face. These teams are evenly matched. 1 seed, 5 seed, be damned. It doesn't matter if they were going to win 65, 66 games. These teams are on even par, and the Heat can easily win this series.
I don't think easily, but I understand the Heat. I think what you're saying, not easily, like as in it'll be an easy win. But
it's not a shock if the Heat win the series. Yeah, you can't be surprised. You just can't be surprised. You can't go out there and say, "Oh my God, this is the upset of upsets," like you would normally say when a 5 seed beats a 1 seed. No, these are evenly matched teams. These teams are probably worth. Although I fear Toronto and Boston a little bit more. But that's just me just looking at the matchups.
The matchup problems. There's matchup problems with these other teams.
But these teams are worthy of playing for the Eastern Conference Championship. If this were the series in the next round, it's perfectly fine. These could easily be the 2 best teams in the East.
And when you talk about 2 best teams in the East, what I will say that the Heat are not your customary 5 seed. Right. You're talking about a team that hasn't lost a game in the playoffs so far. They're 5-0 in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a team that can shoot with the best teams in the NBA, and they've proven ever since the Winslow trade that they can defend with anybody else. Yes. Alfredo, how many zone possessions did you see tonight?
I
don't remember a single one.
I don't remember a single one.
I don't remember a single zone possession. And you want to know what that tells me about the Miami Heat? That this team has reached a different level defensively. They gave up, 37 points in the first quarter?
Yeah.
And then if you look at, they gave up 104 points overall. That means they averaged less than 25 points per quarter after the first.
Yeah, and big unsung hero, Jay Crowder, Jesus. He matched up not only with Giannis, but he had to, it was a problem keeping him off the block and keeping him away from the bucket. And he still managed to stay in front of him for the most part. Did an admirable job and was still moving off of picks on offense and getting his threes up. So, great motor tonight from Jay Crowder. He was one of the unsung heroes, I believe.
With Giannis, it wasn't, and Brady, watching the game, I have a bunch of topics I want to get to. I'm actually waiting for some other people to jump on before we get into it one step by step. But with Giannis, it wasn't about Giannis was 6 for 12 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. The fact that you had him shoot 5 3-pointers
and wide open. They were like, whoa. Okay, go ahead. This
is what I want to get to when it comes to Giannis. It wasn't about the fact that he was 50% from the field. It's the fact that he only scored 18 points. It's the fact that he got to they kept sending him to the free throw line because he wasn't making his shots. It's what they did to mitigate what he does best. They stayed in front of him. They stopped him in transition. They looked what they did a lot. First of all, the Heat controlled their turnovers. Their turnovers they didn't have a lot of turnovers, and they controlled what they did in transition. And they found him in transition and beat him to the ball and beat him to the paint where he couldn't just beat you up. Brady, what did you see? Go ahead. What did you see from the Heat on Giannis tonight?
I think the thing is that the Heat that is so different from all the other teams guarding Giannis is that they have all these different guys that they could throw him that all have different defensive schemes. Like they have Jay Crowder, who's the physical guy that's going to go at Giannis. You have Iguodala, who's just more of the smart, high IQ kind of defender that's going to stay. And then you got Bam, of course, that's the quick, lengthy guy that just matches up perfectly with him. So I think it's just more that they have so many different kind of defensive guys that they can throw at him that just messes with him. And you can tell he just gets it just gets in his head a little bit. You can even tell with the free throws. He's just like the Heat just really get at him. It seems like that they get under his skin a little bit to change up his game.
Brady, they run 4 bodies at him.
Right, and all the help defense.
We're not even talking about help defense. We're talking about 4 bodies one-on-one. They run 4 bodies at him. They run Bam, they run Jay, they run Andre, and they ran Jimmy in the fourth quarter at him. And like you said, one of the things I like what you said is all these guys play differently. So now Giannis has to, during the course of a game, consistently adjust his approach offensively depending on who's guarding him, and that is a lot to deal with.
And like
for
you
an
said,
NBA player,
letting him shoot those 5 threes, they'll give him those threes all game.
And Bam never pushed up on a single 3. Go ahead.
No, not at all.
Go ahead, shoot that. So that was actually my first topic. I really wanted to get to the bodies that the Heat have to throw against Giannis. I think that's separates the Miami Heat from a lot of these other teams that they have. They're not relying on one guy to stop Giannis. They have multiple guys. No matter and they were talking about all the substitutions and the rotations. No matter who Spo had out there, he had a guy that he could throw at Giannis and be comfortable. But I'm gonna go to Kylie on this one because Kylie, you just showed up. Jimmy MFing Butler.
I would like to for the bubble.
Okay, Kylie wants to offer herself to the bubble gods. Bubble dribble, by the way. Get the shirt on 5reasonsports.com. Kylie wants to offer herself up to the bubble gods for Jimmy Butler. Kylie, what did you see from Jimmy Butler tonight? Like, we're talking about there's a reason that the Heat got this guy. And he proved it tonight. Like, tell me what you saw from him.
Well, first of all, I mean, we've seen playoff Jimmy Butler before. I mean, versus the Pacers, he looked good. But I feel like his role has always been in the regular season and even versus the Pacers, although he amped it up versus the Pacers. His role was much more of a defensive role to me and a facilitator role. And then he just dropped 40. I mean, this man said – and he was hitting jump shots, which we didn't really see from him all season long. I mean, he was just – everything was going in, and he was so aggressive. And you can tell, like, I mean, he doesn't want his family in the bubble. He did not come here for friends. He did not come here for family. He came here for wins and wins alone. Like, this man put it all on the line, and I would love to see this from him for the rest of the series. I think we will.
Another thing is with his jumper is a lot of people were kind of speculating what was wrong with his jumper, and I think what you can see from this now is it really was a confidence thing. I think you can just tell he has such confidence in the fourth quarter in himself. His teammates trust him, the coaches trust him, and most importantly, like I said, he trusts himself, and he's not afraid to take those shots, and he only takes them in the end of the fourth quarters, it seems like, because that's when he knows that he's the go-to
Brady,
guy.
I've been saying Jimmy Butler doesn't make threes unless they're important, all right?
He doesn't even attempt them.
He's like, you guys and your piddly threes, Duncan Robinson shooting threes in the first quarter, those are not important threes. I'm going to make the threes in the fourth that actually count. Like, Jim, he's a different animal, man. Like, he's a different beast. He's the alpha that the Heat have been looking for such a long time. And the fact that he's the alpha male, I won't say alpha male. Sorry, Kylie. He's the alpha dog that embodies this Heat culture and this Heat spirit. And the fact that he's doing these things offensively in the fourth quarter of big games, like he's doing Dwayne Wade type shit with Udonis Haslem mentality. And like he's the perfect Heat player if you really want to get down to it. But
he's making Joel Embiid tweet.
Yes. If only I still had this motherfucker on my team. Maybe we wouldn't have got swept.
Yeah.
If I didn't have Josh Richardson dribbling out of bounds.
He made Joel Embiid on Twitter be humble. Think about that.
If he was like, man, I could have had this guy instead of Tobias Harris.
Yes.
That will. Watching Jimmy Butler do that and then realizing that you counted on Tobias Harris will cause introspection for anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go to our fantasy expert, the guy who looks at individual matchups, Taco Bell Sports, because I want to talk about the fact that Milwaukee gave away the Middleton game. Like, I don't know how many more times Middleton can do this. You lost the Middleton game. Middleton played his ass off. You lost the Middleton game. Like, can they come back from the fact that we were saying that they were going to lose this game because Middleton showed up. If you can't win a game when Middleton plays like this, Middleton had 27 points?
I expected this, so I told y'all I had him in my lineup. I wasn't surprised that it was a Middleton game, and I think he can do that. They're going to focus on Giannis, clearly. So with Middleton, on his end of it, we know if he's got open shots, man, he can do this. He's streaking.
But he wasn't even open. He wasn't open.
Even he had that one play where he crossed over. I don't even know who was in front of him. And
it's Jay Crowder. He had Jay Crowder on his ass.
But I mean, he's just he's not being double teamed. He doesn't got to worry about anything. We're focusing on Giannis. So right now, there could be 2 or 3 more Middleton games, man. If Giannis can somehow figure out, and that's the thing, man, are we going to the Kawhi thing? Because I've been talking a lot about how Toronto, I don't view them the way y'all do because no Kawhi, and Kawhi was the Giannis stopper. Are we overvaluing that to some degree with this idea that we can shut him down by throwing all these different random bodies at him, you know?
Well, what I'll say is when it came down, okay, so you mitigated Giannis a little bit. He can't make free throws, and then it became a Jimmy Butler versus Chris Middleton battle. You're gonna win that shit every time. And
the thing is, their supporting cast just didn't show up today for Milwaukee. It was literally Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez that were the only ones.
Korver started hitting shots. Yeah,
Korver started hitting shots late, but it was just like none of the other guys were showing up on offense throughout, and they didn't even look like they were attempting shots. I think it was Ethan pointed it out on Twitter. It was like they had 75% of the shot attempts in the until the third quarter.
I just want to say that we talked about that supporting cast being needed on Playing Catch Up, and everyone should watch the show.
But
by the way, did you guys notice that they started denying the ball to Brook Lopez in the second half? He couldn't get that many shots up. You know, in the first half, it really did look like he was going to go for a 40 burger. It really did.
So I
first half fire.
What happened when they started denying the ball to these guys? Who got the ball in their hands? There was a lot of Marvin Williams. There was a lot of George Hill.
And that's the reason you take
that all day long, man.
And Wes Matthews' appearance there for a little stint.
You're gonna take that all day long. Yeah. You're gonna force the ball into these guys' hands.
Pat Connaughton, all those guys can put all the shots they want up. You just can't get them into a rhythm. You know what I mean? You don't want.
I fully expect a big Pat Connaughton game.
That has to come. You know. Now, did we already use up the Brook Lopez game and the Middleton game? Are we in the clear here?
I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering.
It's going to be a thing. I don't played solid against them all year. Those two guys just had good games against them, and that's. Yeah. And going back to Jimmy for a second, just to kind of wrap that up, he all year, like you said, he's a facilitator. It's the idea we used to say LeBron sometimes, he just sit back and watch too much. We wanted him to take over. Jimmy does that a lot, and I feel like especially today, Duncan wasn't hitting. They weren't open. Duncan, Tyler wasn't really doing his thing. Jimmy in a playoff game against the Bucks said, "I'm taking this shit over," and here it is. And he did what we know he can do. He just doesn't always need to do.
And talking about the Milwaukee guys stepping up, I just want to mention that Eric Bledsoe returning in game 2 or game 3 is something we have to look at for the future after looking back at this game, because that's going to be another guy that obviously the other guys didn't step up, but he's a guy that's at least maybe capable of stepping up and being that third option of scoring. But
what I will say about that, Brady, is he can't shoot.
Right, but I think that at least
he can get to the bucket.
He can get to the bucket. That's something that a lot of their other guys can't do, that he could bring at least a scoring aspect that obviously I think Goran would be on him at the start of the game, which would be a mismatch that he would be taking him to the rack a lot. So I still don't think it's a problem, but it's something to take a look at for the next game.
Did anybody want? Hold on. Did anybody while they were watching think that Bam Adebayo was having as good a game as he ended up with?
No, I said he was playing terrible. I thought.
12,
yeah. Then you look at the line and you're like, wow, he did that.
12, 17, and 6 with 2 steals.
Didn't he have a crazy amount of rebounds too?
Huh?
Didn't he have like a lot of rebounds?
17 rebounds. Led the team in plus minus. And we sit there, we get mad at it because there was a lot of times where I was like, just dunk on Marvin Williams, bro. Like,
oh my god!
Listen,
he did miss a ridiculous dunk.
I have this thing about Marvin Williams. Like, Marvin Williams has a body of a female city bus driver, and it bothers me that he's an NBA player and that he continues to, like, ball out against my teams all the time. Like, he should not be able to stop Bam Adebayo getting to the rim. But I'm gonna
get a random heat killer right now. That's what it is.
And it's him and Anthony Tolliver are the 2 guys I'm the most tired of in the league.
Ilyasova, man, I'm telling you, they gotta get him in there.
So, and by the way, let me say something. The NBA needs a playoff MVP award. Okay.
Yes.
They have a regular season award, and they should have a trophy that they hand out at the end of the finals. And it could be a guy that could, it could be a guy that petered out in 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I'll give you one right now. Goran Dragic, if they had that trophy, he would be in the top 5.
He'd be up there. I want to get to Goran right now, right? So I'm gonna go to Kylie.
Okay, I have so much to say about Goran.
Okay, so if you're gonna say if you're talking about NBA is a league of stars, right? You had a star in Jimmy Butler that went and dropped 40, and then you had a star in Giannis. I'm not gonna say his last name. Adebayo. He went and dropped 18. He had the worst plus minus on his team today. I don't really believe it's his fault. But what I will say is when you talk about their sidekicks, right? Someone just said Goran got inside every possession. Jimmy's sidekick was Goran Dragic, right? Goran had 27 points. Giannis's sidekick was Chris Middleton, had 28 points. If the role players on the Heat, and especially Goran Dragic, is going to play out of his mind like this, is going to be a really, really tough time for the Bucks.
Yeah, I just
Duncan and Tyler didn't even do anything.
No, what? Go ahead. No, we'll go back to. I want to talk about Tyler, but go ahead, Kylie.
Well, I just wanted to say how aggressive Dragic was. I mean, I know he's always had good games in his last. I mean, he's the 6th man who's coming out with 20+ points in every playoff game so far, and I mean, you just love to see it. But it's also like he was putting himself out there. Like, he was pushing the rim. He was getting points in the paint more than anyone else was up until maybe like the 4th quarter, Jimmy. But I mean, I was also, obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but the surprise of the Heat earning so many points in the paint when we thought they were more of like a shooting offense, and we're coming into this more of a shooting offense. But Dragic was the one who was really leading those lanes.
Dragic kept him afloat for about 2. Go ahead, Brady. Go ahead, because I think you feel strongly about this.
No, like talking about like Butler and Dragic like feeding off each other. I think you can see like in every game, it's kind of like Dragic has his half and Butler has his half, and that's kind of what we saw today. He led the first half with 19 points, and then Butler led the second half and went on that late run in the 4th quarter. Dragic still puts in his points with Butler at times, but it seems like it's better when they're kind of each the leader on the court at their own times, when Dragic can do what he does best, which is attack the rim, and Butler can do what he does best, which is attack the rim. So I think it's kind of more of a thing to see if I think they play well together on the court, but it's kind of a thing with Dragic being 34 years old that you're playing him this many minutes, heading into you're 1-0 in a series that could possibly be going into an Eastern Conference Finals. Don't want to get too ahead, but like you don't want to burn him out at 34 years old. That you want to limit his minutes a little bit. So I think at times you're going to have to play Butler at times without Dragic to kind of ease the load a little bit for him.
Alfredo, do Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic play off of each other better than Dwayne Wade and Goran Dragic did?
Oh, it's night and day. But let's let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm not saying Jimmy Butler's Dwayne Wade. I'm just saying the pairing of those two guys is better than Dwayne and Goran ever were, because
it's clear. It's clear. I think it's a personality thing, because as much as and you said it, as much as Jimmy Butler's an alpha, Dwayne was an apex. He was an apex. He was an apex alpha. Even on a team with LeBron James. Even on a team with LeBron James, he was the alpha.
And remember, Goran came to his team. Jimmy came to Goran's team.
But to be fair, if you remember that Toronto series in 2016, they did have moments together. But the only thing is that the moments weren't consistent. Yep. These moments are consistent. Like it's a tandem. It's their 1-2 punch. That's how that team rolls, offensively at least.
Can we talk about the fact that Tyler Herro is 20 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And
younger than me.
Yeah, Tyler Herro is younger than Kylie, and he is not afraid of the moment. He hit maybe the biggest shot of the game.
Yeah.
Where just completely put it to bed.
And no hesitation. He just put it up. It was like
just not afraid of the moment.
Well, that's when he shoots best.
And my biggest thing about it is not about the numbers. It's not about the efficiency. It's not about – first of all, he played very good defense.
And Duncan did as well.
Duncan played tremendous defense today, which is why I was like, man, y'all got to get him open. Like if Duncan's going to play really good defense on one end, like you have to get him shots. But what I'll say with both of those guys, but more importantly with Tyler, is Eric's supposed to trust him at the end of games. Like Eric Spoelstra does not trust rookies to close out games. David, talk about sports. Eric trusting Tyler Herro to close out games. Like what does that say to you about who this guy is?
It says the drip shirts and all the stuff that we talk about on Twitter. It's legit, man. Like he has that. They wouldn't have him out there in those moments if he didn't have something different about him. And we've seen it since the beginning, man. But it's just continued. It hasn't faded. The Kendrick Nunn thing kind of faded off a little. Tyler, even though his numbers, because he's coming off the bench and inconsistent playing time, like you can see next year, man, watch out.
Well, let me ask all of you this question. Something that we do in football is this exercise where we do a comparable. I don't know Tyler Herro's comparable. Is it Mike Miller had he never been hurt in his career? But is that what he is? Because I know with Duncan, everybody likes to hint at Klay Thompson with not as good a defense.
What I would say with Tyler is stop comparing him to white guys. And you might start finding a comp there. I think you keep comparing him to white guys because
How about Jamal Crawford?
I see a CJ McCollum.
Yeah, I see CJ McCollum more than any white guy. What I will say, there's a couple times that Tyler has a shot, a three-point shot that he could take, but he knows a better option is trying to get to the rim, where a lot of shooters will take the shot. Tyler doesn't consider himself a shooter. He considers himself a basketball player, and that's the difference between Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson and a Kyle Korver and some of these guys. And I love all those guys, but people have to stop putting Tyler into this box of a spot up catch and shoot guy. That's not what he is.
And better yet, he's like I said before, the way he controls the mid range, you see it so much. Like CJ McCollum's one of them that does it well. But he's very confident in if he has a 3-point shot that he could take and be a little contested, he'd rather take one dribble in and pull a mid range because he's way more comfortable with it. Which is something that most of the Heat players, I don't think any of the Heat players really do consistently. Other than is the only one who's probably Goran.
But Brady, have you seen how much he's learned from Goran? Sometimes what he does is he gets to the rim knowing he has no shot, but he knows that he can collapse the defense and he can make a pass out of it that's going to open something up for somebody else. Like he one
of the things is that you said the pick and roll is something that I think he's learned a lot from when if it's Bam or Derrick Jones that we saw earlier in the season, they connected on he's very good with the floater, which is one thing you learned from Goran, and the alley-oop pass, which is both of the things that Goran is exceptional at.
Goran had it going 3 levels today, and it was insane.
And how about the vet move by Tyler Herro throwing the elbow as he's going up on the far side of the court because he knows the referees are trailing. Yeah. And then he looks back and Jimmy looks at him like, Did you do that? And he's like, yeah, of course I did that. But he actually saw him. Vet move. That usually doesn't get caught, by the way. On a trailing with the referee trailing the break and on the far side of the court. But they actually spotted it.
I just want to mention another thing Tyler does a lot like Goran is the push off. There's a lot of things it's something that Goran does a lot and that Tyler's starting to do that I think I've seen more in the bubble as a lot of the time. Even when he's going up on the rim, like on the basket, he uses his off arm to get separation just to get the ball up.
We got 5 minutes left, so I want to talk about a few things that we saw tonight that were interesting. I want to know if you guys think that it's going to be going forward in this series. We saw Derrick Jones Jr. not get a single minute, and Kendrick Nunn, which we talked about this a lot in the pregame. We talked about this a lot going into this series. Kendrick Nunn is a problem for the Milwaukee Bucks in a way that Derrick Jones Jr. just isn't. The Milwaukee Bucks are too good of a defensive team to have a guy on the floor that you don't have to respect on the offensive end. And Kendrick Nunn, you have to respect him. He's not as good a defender, but if you have Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala out there, and the Bucks play a lot of guys that you can hide. Like, that's the thing with the Bucks. There's like a lot of Connaughtons and Marvin Williams and George Hills and Wes Matthews, guys that aren't quick off the dribble that Kendrick Nunn could stay in front of. So I think this is a good matchup for him. Do you think this goes forward? Like, do you think Kendrick Nunn gets the minutes over Derrick Jones Jr.? I'm gonna ask you. Go ahead, Kylie, for you first. Like, do you think this is going to be something going forward?
You know what I loved what you just said is that the Bucks defense is so good that you can't have someone out there that isn't an offensive threat. I 100% agree with that. And honestly, I mean, I've said this before, but Derrick's had maybe a couple of games this season that have been really good offensively. For the most part, he's a defensive player, but he just doesn't put up the numbers to be worth it out on the court. So I agree with you. I think Kendrick Nunn is a way better choice.
I think Kendrick Nunn is in the rotation moving forward for the rest of the series. But the only thing I will say is heading into this game, the one problem I had with Derrick Jones playing was that is the offensive side that he wouldn't have a role. He would just, like you said, be there. But the way that the paint wasn't as packed as we originally thought, that we saw Bam get a bunch of those plays and Jimmy, I think that there might be a way for him to have an offensive role a little bit that we saw in some of those games that they would try out. But I don't think that Spoelstra's going to go with that route, and he's just going to continue going with Kendrick.
That's the thing. One of the things we talk about with Derrick Jones Jr. is vertical spacing. And the fact that what Brook Lopez in the middle and what the Bucks do to wall off the paint, yes, I think they've released, they've kind of relaxed some of that because they're afraid of the Heat shooting, but that doesn't happen if Derrick Jones Jr. is on the floor, because if Derrick Jones Jr. is on the floor, you can't have Bam out there, so Kelly would have to be the big, and I think Kelly. Kelly and Derrick Jones Jr. lineup limits a lot of the things you can do, and I think the Bucks can scheme against that. But I do agree with you. If they continue to play the 3-point line like they did today, which is completely uncharacteristic of a Bucks defense, there's room for Derrick Jones Jr. somewhere in the lineup.
And they could also play him at the 5. I personally don't like playing him at the 5, especially if Brook Lopez is out there. But that's something that Spo has gone to a couple of times, that there's a chance that he could go to that during the series a little bit, putting him at the 5 to have that role of just being the vertical spacer that you said.
Yeah, I don't believe it's fair to DJJ. Like his plus minus always goes into the shit, and it's like, yeah, because he played the 5 for 15 minutes without Bam, KO, or Jimmy Butler.
Well, maybe in a lineup that they run with Giannis at the 5, maybe they could try that out, because I don't know if he's big enough, but he has potential to at least stop him a little bit. That if they were to do it, they could do against the lineup with Giannis at the 5.
Okay, guys, go ahead.
I think that the Bucks they've been playing better in this bubble, and as far as these playoffs, with Brook Lopez seems to be content with just putting up threes, because he's putting up 6 per game and he's hitting like 38% of them, and he's just standing out there. So you've watched him a couple times, especially in this last game, where to try to get him down to the post, it seems like they have to move heaven and earth to get him down there. So if he's just going to sit out there, the Heat might have found something in the second half just denying him the ball. And if they can do that, if you remember what Dwayne Wade did to Danny Green after Danny Green went crazy the first 2 games in the 13 finals, remember when Dwayne Wade said, you know what, I'll just erase him the rest of the series. And for the rest, the other 5 games, he was essentially worthless. If they could render Brook Lopez worthless, the Heat's well on their way to winning the series.
So we got to wrap it up, guys, because we're already over 30 minutes, and I want to go to sleep. One of the things I will say, look at the Joel Embiid tweet, trolling.
The thirst.
Yeah. One of the things I will say is when somebody was like, "You guys aren't giving Spo any credit." Listen, everything we're talking about is coming from Spo, right? So I want to see. If this is going to be a chess match, I want to see Budenholzer step up and not just keep throwing out Giannis out there and hoping that things work out.
Or
so I'm going to go
every 2 minutes and then putting him in for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
it's kind of odd. Though.
I have no idea. Brady, you said I have no idea what the substitution pattern is with Giannis. I don't get it. Like, listen,
Buck's Twitter was ready to fire Budenholzer at halftime.
Bro, what are you saving him for?
And
it's
you're
the second round of the playoffs.
You're risking a 2-minute stretch for a foul.
What's that, Kylie?
The fouls that he kind of racked up a little bit, especially.
But that wasn't. But he does it when he's not in foul trouble.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it makes it that much more of a risk to put him in for a 2-minute stretch for no reason to risk getting him that 3rd or 4th foul. That's what just didn't make sense to me.
That part doesn't make sense. They always in the first quarter they do play him a couple minutes, take him out, put him back in. Like that didn't shock me, but I think they were saying like he looked surprised how early it happened, and it did seem like they were saving him separate from the fouls. It didn't work out because of the fouls.
Listen, I got a couple of people mad at me because I said I don't understand the substitution pattern. It didn't. Tonight wasn't the first time. This is a thing with Giannis. You guys just haven't watched a lot of Bucks games. I'm sorry, but you'll see through the rest of the series. I want to go real quick through everybody, and judging off of what happened tonight, I'm gonna start with you, Kylie, and I'm gonna go around the clock. Kylie, does this change the way you feel about this series?
Okay, well, at the pregame show, I said Bucks in 7. I feel a little differently. I'm not going to just immediately flip back on my word. I did, however, tweet, and I would like to be held accountable. If I'm wrong, I'm going to get a Miami Heat tattoo, and I'm going to be very excited about it. I feel good about it. It's a win-win either way for me. I think Milwaukee, like their defense, I mean, the Heat couldn't do some of the things that they were able to do normally. Like their ball movement was not as effective, but they did things that they made a game plan that was so good for the Bucks. I mean, they shut down Giannis and they capitalized on these turnovers that Milwaukee had. And I don't want them to win off of turnovers. I don't want that to be the reason for the win. And up until the 3rd quarter, that's how I felt. But then the 4th quarter, I mean, Jimmy and Goran Dragic, I mean, they won this game for us. I mean, and Jimmy in the 4th was just fantastic. And they came up clutch, which was what I was really concerned about, was that ending in the 4th quarter. And they just nailed it.
So you're still Bucks in 7.
I'm not just going to flip-flop immediately because I think that that's wrong. I like to be a woman of my word, but I will get back to you after game 2.
Alfredo, you were Heat in 6?
7. I had Heat in 7, but the Bucks, like this is a must win. If the Bucks lose game 2 to Miami could dust them off early. And I'm talking early. I'm talking about in 5 games because this game keeps replaying itself. And we don't believe the results. At some point, we have to believe the results. These teams are evenly matched, and they could win this series. And if they win game 2, it's a wrap.
Brady, where were you before the game?
Heat in 7. So,
are you there still, or have you changed your mind?
I think it's still going to be Heat in 7. It's amazing to me that they won this game, obviously, without being able to shoot the ball the way they usually do, which just stands out. Just like that, but I think that Milwaukee's still going to have some good games pushed in there. Like he said, I think game 2 is going to be a must-win for them. Mm-hmm. I think that the Bledsoe return is going to help them out a little bit. I don't think he's going to elevate them to another level, but I think he's another scorer that they can look to. So I think it's still going to go 7. I have a feeling that as long as the Miami shooters just keep stepping up, and I don't think Butler's going to be. He's not going to be scoring 40 every game at the end of a game, so they're going to need these other guys to step up.
Dave, talk about sports. Why is your name Ashamed?
Because I picked the Bucks in 6, man.
In 6.
Final word.
Do you
No,
change?
look, I'm gonna change it from 6. Yeah.
Well, my
I'll go
thing is
Bucks
this:
in 7.
if you said Bucks in 6, that means the Heat had to win 2 games. Like,
No,
I don't
get
understand
that.
how your whole thing
Yeah.
changes.
Here's why. Okay, so the way the game played out, I felt early on and I tweeted this out, like it felt like the Bucks should have been up 15, and it was like a 3-point game. I don't know what the hell I watched tonight, to be honest with you. I don't think that what happened tonight is going to happen in game 2. I mean, obviously, Giannis is going to pick up 3 probably early, but Giannis is going to have a game, man. Like, they're not going to do this to him every game. And I think what Brady's saying, like, yeah, man, they're going to make it a series, man. I'll go 7. I feel stupid at this point to jump on the Heat after 1 game, but I mean, Tyler Herro and Duncan, man, if they can do anything, Jimmy doesn't need to score 40 every game.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like the Bucks aren't going to make these same mistakes. That's why I'm going to stick with my word also, because it's only been 1 game. Like, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But the Bucks had a lot of turnovers that the Heat got a lot of points off of and a lot of free throw points off of. And I don't think they're going to make those same mistakes. They're going to adjust. They're a good team.
Well, I said Bucks in 7. I'm not changing after 1 game because my prediction meant the Heat were going to win 3 games. But what I will say, Kylie, is Coach Bud is notorious for, yes, what you see is what you get. Like, they're not – the fact that they even guarded the 3-point line the way they did tonight was surprising. Like, this is
crazy.
Yeah, it's who he is. He doesn't change. And if he decides to go – if he says, I'm going back to full drop coverage and I'm going to leave the 3-point line open, then the Heat are really going to light his ass up. He changed his game plan tonight to mitigate the Heat's 3-point shooting, and the Heat found a way. And what I will say, and I've said it throughout the playoffs, the thing that has given me the most joy watching the Heat is the fact that they found new ways to win every time. Where it's either a 3-point barrage in the first half, they shut that. They find a way to win over and over again. And I think, and I don't like a lot of the intangible stuff, but I think it's like the spirit of Jimmy Butler about this team. They are going to win this fucking game, and no matter how they're going to win it, they're going to win it, and they're going to grind it out, and they're going to find a way to do it. So, game 2 is Wednesday, right, Alfredo?
I believe so. Yeah.
Game 2 is Wednesday. So. You guys catch us. We're going to be on the pregame show. Most likely, I'm going to be hosting the postgame show again. Ethan knows I drink during games, so he likes me doing the postgame stream because it's more free-flowing and there's less sponsors for me to offend. So you'll catch me again, Kylie, Alfredo, who knows? I don't know if I'm going to have Ashamed back. But me, Brady, Kylie, Alfredo, who knows? Well, maybe other cast characters. But Heat win tonight. Great game. It was an awesome game. The 11-point margin doesn't really tell you how great a game this was. Also, check out manscaped.com, right? If you're hairy, Kylie is not messing with you, right? So get
unless
your
it's
stuff.
red.
No, not if red or not. Kylie wants you clean shaven. So check out manscaped.com. Use promo code 5RSN. Get 20% off all your purchases. Manscaped.com, 5RSN. Check out Light Skin Opinions. Check out 5 on the Floor. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Oh, wait. Go ahead, Kylie, plug your stuff.
Playing catch up Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Very short. Catch you up on everything you missed in South Florida sports.
With Kylie and is it Tamara or Tamara?
Tamara Brown.
Tamara Brown. She's amazing. She had a really, really good video on like social justice and all this other stuff. I promoted it. Very, very excited about some of the things that are going on with 5 Reasons, the diversity that we're doing. Alfredo, where can they catch you?
3 yards per carry, and on the 3 yards per carry Twitter account, and on my own Twitter account on Heat Game Days.
David, Talk about sports. Where can they
Talk
find
about
you?
sports. Talk about fantasy sports. Talk about sports. Just talk about sports.
Taco. That's why he has tacos behind him. If you were wondering why, there's tacos floating behind him. Brady, where can they catch you? Where can they find your stuff?
Twitter is Brady Hawk 305, and then there's a new takeaways piece on 5reasonsports.com.
Brady has a column about every Heat game, every Heat practice. When a Heat player breathes, Brady has a 1,000-word article immediately up on the website. Like, listen,
faster than anyone in the world.
Hardest working man in sports. It's either him, Stephen A. Smith, or I think that's it. I think they're neck and neck. So check out Brady Hawk on 5reasonsports.com. We love you guys. We're gonna see you Wednesday.
All right.